The NTSB is holding a press conference right now to address what happened. Let's listen in.
Outstanding work, help, and cooperation of the New York Police Department, the Fire Department of New York, the New York Emergency Management Office, the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, the Department of Buildings, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FAA, and the building management company, Commonwealth Partners. Yesterday, we formed a team to investigate this accident involving an Augusta 109E twin-engine helicopter, which crashed on the roof of 787 7th Avenue yesterday afternoon. There's not a heliport located on top of the building. The investigative team includes Leonardo Helicopters, Pratt & Whitney of Canada, and the Federal Aviation Administration. Our mission is to gather the facts and ultimately determine the probable cause of this accident and make recommendations to prevent similar accidents from happening in the future. This morning we met with first responders and our investigative team to set the scope and begin our on-scene examination. Some of the information we know so far is that the helicopter departed with the pilot and one passenger from Westchester County yesterday about 11:30 a.m. It landed in Manhattan about 11:45 a.m. The passenger disembarked and the pilot waited at the 34th Street helipad until about 1:30 when he departed for his destination in Linden, New Jersey. The helicopter crashed on the roof about 1:40 p.m. This morning I visited the accident scene. The wreckage is confined to the rooftop. It is highly fragmented, and a post-crash fire consumed much of the wreckage. We began our scene documentation focusing on preserving perishable evidence, such as wreckage condition, witness statements, records, and video recordings. We have much more work to do before this investigation is complete. We've begun gathering records about the pilot, the helicopter, the weather and environment at the time of the accident. And we've already begun our witness interviews. Several witnesses have been already interviewed, including the passenger on the previous flight, staff at the 34th Street helipad, with more witness interviews ongoing now and planned. Anyone who saw or heard or knows anything about this flight should contact us at the following email address: witness@ntsb.gov. After the on-scene documentation is complete, the wreckage will be moved to a secure location for a more detailed examination for the remainder of this week. The NTSB will not determine the probable cause while on scene or speculate about the cause or the circumstances of this accident. You can expect a preliminary report summarizing the facts gathered while we were here in New York in about 2 weeks on the ntsb.gov website. That report will also not contain the cause. It will summarize the facts gathered to date. I've got time for a few questions. Not too many. I've got to get back to work, and hold on one second. I want to give you, before I forget, for all the questions I don't get to or can't answer because I don't have that information right now, you need to contact NTSB Mr. Terry Williams at 202-314-6100. I've got just a few minutes. Go ahead.
Did this helicopter have a flight data recorder or a voice recorder? And if so, is that something you think you could recover?
It's an X question. The helicopter was not installed. The cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder were not installed on the helicopter. They're not required. However, there is instrumentation and helicopter systems that do have memory in them and the capability to record. We're searching for those on the rooftop right now.
Can you talk more about the weather? The NYPD aviation unit, they were grounded because of the weather yesterday. Should this helicopter have been in the air?
Well, that's something that we're looking into. I've not reviewed the records, but it's certainly one of the most interesting concerns we have is gathering as much information about the weather. Should the helicopter have been flying? I don't know yet.
Sir, you said that what kind of conversations, communications did the pilot have with anyone on the ground, Kelly or FAA, as far as stress calls or overall communications?
We've got some information that says that the pilot may have tried to make radio calls near the end of the flight. We're trying to confirm that now. We're trying to find out if it's recorded, and if it's not recorded, find out what witnesses recall from that radio transmission if it existed. We've heard about this. We haven't confirmed it. We're hopeful that it did occur, and we're hopeful that it was recorded.
Doug, can you characterize what, if any, conversations the pilot had with air traffic controllers, and what is the protocol for communicating with ATC when you're over Manhattan?
As far as we know, the pilot was not in communication with ATC, nor was he required to contact ATC for his planned route of flight. We think his route of flight did not go as planned, and he may have ventured into airspace requiring that he contact air traffic control, but at the moment we don't have any records of him doing so.
Sir, the plan is to keep the debris that is up there while you do your investigation. How, if any way, are you going to be able to take parts down, or is that going to happen?
Yes and no. The plan is to get the helicopter off the roof as soon as possible, but we still need to look at most of the items before that moving begins. I hope the moving begins this afternoon or this evening. It's going to be very challenging. The salvage company responsible is on their en route right now. How they're going to get it down is for them to determine. It may be down the stairs and down the elevators.
Do you know the name of the salvage company?
I do, but I've forgotten it. Forgive me.
Can you speak to how long an investigation like this would take?
Investigations like this generally take between 18 and 24 months. We've got a new target to try to get those down to 15 months. I hope I can do that. I can't make that promise now.
Can you characterize at all the interview with the Westchester passenger? Did he say there was any problem aboard the helicopter on the way to 34th Street?
I don't have the details of that conversation, but what I've been told from the interview with the passenger on the previous flight is that there was nothing out of the ordinary. Go ahead.
Will you be able to perform toxicology tests on the remains of this pilot?
Toxicology tests are something that we normally do in all fatal accident investigations at the NTSB, and we plan to do so in this one.
Doug, an eyewitness shot video of a helicopter appearing to fly erratically in that area. Were you able to determine if that indeed was the helicopter that crashed?
I haven't seen that video. I've heard about it. We believe that to be the helicopter. It's something that I still have to confirm.
Doug, he was waiting between 11:45 and 1:30.
Roughly 11:45 to 1:30. Yes, he was waiting, and I don't know if he was waiting for the weather, but he was reviewing the weather or looking up the weather during that time.
So Doug, do you know if he was cleared?
Do
Do you know if he was cleared to go at that moment, at 1:45 when he took off?
It's my understanding that this flight was not required to, nor was he intended to be communicating with air traffic control. So per se, there isn't a clearance. It's a pilot's decision of when to depart. One more.
Just to confirm, what you're saying is it was up to him to decide whether he was going to leave, and how did he characterize the weather at that moment in his conversation?
I don't have any information. We don't have any information about the pilot's conversations at the FBO just yet. We have interviewed some of those folks. I haven't reviewed the results of those interviews. So what he said, if anything, is something I don't know. Two more, that's it. One second.
What's the most difficult part in a situation like this, given all the years that you've been an investigator?
Well, all investigations are somewhat challenging. I'd have to say that the location within the city and on top of a roof of a building is probably the biggest challenge. One more right here, last question.
Sir, are you saying that he had conversations with the heliport ground control, you just don't know what they were?
Yes and no. The information that we've been provided with is that radio transmissions were made from the helicopter. To whom, I don't know. Did they actually occur? That's what we're looking into. That's the last question I can take today. We've got a lot of work to do. Thank you for your patience.
Are you gonna have another
Thank you for your
today?
time. We're not going to have another one today. Whether or not we have one tomorrow will be answered by Mr. Terry Williams. You've got his telephone number. That's him. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we've been listening to an NTSB press conference on that deadly helicopter crash that happened in Midtown yesterday around 1:45. A pilot crash landed his chopper on top of a building on 7th Avenue. A couple of very interesting points to recap that just came out of that press conference. We were all asking yesterday why this pilot was flying in restricted airspace because of the proximity to Trump Tower. That is restricted airspace that requires special permission from one of the local airports and air traffic control. We're being told now that he did not ask permission to fly through there because they believe the route of flight did not go as planned, which is why he never asked air traffic control for permission to fly through there to go into that restricted airspace. One of the reasons it may not have gone as planned is because of the weather. It was extremely rainy and foggy yesterday. In fact, CBSN New York's Alice Gaynor asked that question just now. Should this pilot have even been flying in that weather? The NTSB official just now said, I don't know yet. So that is certainly something that they are looking at. A couple of other important points. We learned a little bit more about the route of this chopper flight. He apparently took off from Westchester around 11:30. He did have a passenger at that time. So he was initially flying with a passenger, dropped off that passenger around 1:30 in the city, took off from the 34th Street heliport around 1:30, and then crashed about 11 minutes later. They said one of the most challenging parts of investigating now is salvaging the wreckage from that helicopter because as soon as it crashed, it burst into flames. We've been showing you pictures of pieces of that wreckage just absolutely disintegrated in those flames. They also said the location of where the chopper is now located on top of that roof, a 54-story building. We're talking more than 700 feet in the air that they're having to get to, and there you see it right there. And again, that cloud cover that we saw yesterday, it was hard to see 100 feet in front of you, let alone be flying in the air. In fact, when I got to that scene yesterday, I couldn't tell if what we were seeing on top of the building was smoke or if it was fog. So they're trying to preserve as much evidence as possible. Something else we found interesting is those so-called black boxes that you often hear about in airplanes, the flight data recorders. They are not required to be installed on these small helicopters. Therefore, there are none on those small helicopters. So right now, their investigation is trying to sift through the wreckage and preserve as much as possible. They're also doing witness interviews, including the passenger who was on that helicopter, the one that took off from Westchester. They're also trying to speak with anyone who may have seen that chopper in the air. There were reports that it seemed to be flying erratically before it crash landed on top of that building. We have not been able to confirm that through witnesses yet, but that's certainly something that we were hearing rumors of yesterday, that people in that area saw it flying erratically. We also know sources are telling us that that pilot did radio to say he was in trouble and then ended up crashing a minute or two later. The NTSB says they will not be determining a cause of the crash on the scene. They'll be out with a preliminary report in about 2 weeks, but the cause of the crash, they don't really expect to have that final report until potentially 18 to 24 months from now.